Bull Camper in the right place at the right time.
Joe Rose, touchdown Miami!
All right, welcome to a special edition of Outdoor. People keep telling me I keep pounding on the desk, and I
don't
think
do
so,
it.
and I'm trying.
I'm
not
shaking
to,
my head. Don't do it.
But I like to make point. You know, I come from that Shula. You make a point, right?
You made it.
So, but this is a special show. We got this is our first time we've had a guest live with us in studio. So we got Glenn Blackwood, one of the great Miami Dolphins of all time, one of the Bruise brothers. But not only do we have one Bruise brother, but we have another Bruise brother. Lyle Blackwood, his brother, that came in and played with us for a couple of years and got a dose of Don Shula that he'll never forget. And so it's a really a good day for us on Out to Pasture, Joe.
It is good. And by the way, both great players, great teammates.
Yeah.
A lot of fun was the reason we wanted to have them. 64 picks between them too. Not to mention what they were able to do at safety, and felt like they never made a mistake. And by the way, in their defenses, practicing against those guys. Some of the greatest actors of all time on the field as far as hiding coverages and stuff. That was no prank. That was all good stuff.
Let's bring in Lyle. You know, and the one thing you talk about safety combinations, you know, I think the Dolphins, if you look over the years, the combination of safeties that they've had that played this game, from Jake Scott and Dick Anderson, Lyle and Glenn, you know, you can go on and on with the safeties. And the one defining thing with certainly you guys early on was the smarts that you had about football. You'd see it. I mean, I'd be sitting there like a knucklehead trying to cover somebody, and you go, "Hey, watch out!" and they're just breaking the huddle. Like, well, how the hell did you know that? You know?
Yeah, and I think that was probably our greatest strength. I think, and I think that's why we fit into Arnsy's defenses so well, because Bill Arnsparger, you had to move stuff around, you had to change things, and we were pretty well prepared going into the game, so that. You know, usually we didn't get beat by getting outsmarted, but we could get outrun.
Yeah, that was one of the things being taught under Bill Arnsparger and being taught cerebral defense was something I had not really encountered in my travels, because before I got to the Dolphins, I was with 3 other teams. So it's probably because I was asleep in the meetings at that time in my life all the time. I wasn't hearing a lot of things. But anyway, Coach Arnsparger added a dimension that I never really knew about. And then being able to, the night before the game, sometimes it wasn't always the best thing, but with Glenn, just talk about things and see what we were going to do the next day, if there was anything extra we needed to do just between ourselves. To have a better defense when something came up that we had gone over on the other side of the ball with offense.
I still remember Betchek and Arnsy. I always thought it was weird. Arnsy is one of the best coaches in the league would do. And then I realized a lot of it was to get you guys in the hall and talk to you guys about something that he thought of that he was going to run the next day. And I thought, wow, it's kind of late in the week to be putting stuff. Did he do a lot of that stuff the night before games?
Well, it worked pretty well until he started getting tired of the odors coming out of it.
There we go.
Yeah, it was the night before the game. It
doesn't take long to get Glenn into the toilet jokes, right? I remember John Sandusky, where me and Brzezinski were always room kind of next to you guys. And I remember one time we kept our door cracked open because you didn't want to get up, and all of a sudden I hear your door open and John Sandusky goes, "Oh, geez, so dying in there."
Well,
we all had a little.
We had a way of downing that a little bit, putting that on some ice, and Glenn would light his with a match, and then they'd blow out what his smell is.
Hey,
yeah, thanks a lot.
How do we go from talking about a defensive
cerebral
to fart jokes?
Yeah.
Right? You get these guys thinking it doesn't take long. And look, Joe and I are willing participants, by the way. We're all in for it. But so it's funny. I just want to give both you guys opinions because Glenn, like you said, Lyle, you'd played on a number of teams before you got to the Miami Dolphins. And Bill Arnsparger, and you were with Bill the whole time you were here until a little later when things kind of fell apart. We brought a couple other guys in there, but he was, he was a guy that that was always ahead of the offense. I remember talking to quarterbacks after we played, and they go, when we played you, we kind of had to figure out what you were doing for 2 series before we could get an idea what you're doing. And then by that time, we're down by 14 points, and now we got to throw the ball. And so we had to diagnose your defense, and it really – but the ability for a guy like that to make changes at the moment, sometimes during the game. And I know we both remember this game when AJ we were in New York in the Jets. We were playing a 3-4. We had 4 linebackers. AJ pulled up with a groin injury in pregame warmups. So when we had 3, Bill immediately went in the locker room, left the field, went in the locker room. We came in, and he had moved Mike Kozlowski up and changed the defense around, and we shut the Jets out. And I remember walking in the rock. He had tears in his eyes. Yeah.
We gave him the game ball for that.
Because he had gone in and made these changes, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of but he had people, guys like you, that could adapt immediately to what he put in.
But he actually took Mike Charles, our defensive nose, and moved him to either Ted or Mike linebacker, and that was our rush, because the 3-4, you always have 3 guys rushing and 1 linebacker. Well, that became our linebacker rushing, and we could play all our defenses, and it wasn't perfect, but it worked, and it totally screwed them up. They were like, "What the heck is this?" Coming at us. But I think that's what I loved about Bill. I loved one of my favorite pictures in my I have about 6 pictures that I have in my library in my house in Carolinas, and it's the picture of Bill, and I'm walking over to him. It's a timeout, and he's standing there like this. And, he had his arms crossed, and he's just looking at me. And it was that Bill never got flustered. He never got, he didn't get all wigged out about stuff. And he would just sit there. And I remember, many times he'd say, "Well, what do you think?" And he wanted to know what we were experiencing out on the football field. And but man, he usually came up with the right formula to fit the situation.
Yeah, I always wonder. You were there first, and now you find out they might be interested in bringing your brother to play with you at safety. Walk me through what that whole thing was like.
Well, we had played the Colts, and Don McNeil pulled a hamstring. And Lyle had been released by the Giants by choice, didn't want to play up there, and they had he said, "Let me go," and they let him go, and nobody had picked him up, and he was in Austin. And McNeil gets hurt. We're playing up in Baltimore, and so Arnsy goes, "Well, we got to find somebody to help us out on our nickel package." And I said, "Well, I know where there's a good safety in Austin, Texas," and kind of laughed and moved on. And so the next day we're in, and I'm sitting there watching film, and I look, how you can feel somebody walk by, you can kind of, and then you see a shadow over there, and I looked over, so this guy walked by, and I said, "Dang, that looked like my brother." And they had signed Lyle, flown him in, and I didn't even know about it.
Nobody said a word.
Not until I saw him walk in the locker room.
So on the other side, on the other side of that is teams had been calling me, and but there was no offer. That day, Baltimore called me and said they wanted me to come back and they wanted me to start that day. And Dick Szymanski was the general manager at that time. He's the one that had anyway. We didn't get along real well, and but he said the coach Mike McCormick was the head coach then. He said, "I'm going to have Dick call you." But Dick never called me, and by the time that he did call me, I was on a flight going to Miami, and Bill had said we'd like to come in and you try out, and I was going, "Well, I'm not going to try out. I've already got an offer at Baltimore," and I said, "I'm going to take that. If we're going to do a tryout." I said, "I'm not going to come down there." And so he said, "Give me 5 minutes, and I'm going to talk to Coach Shula." And so he came back 5 minutes later, called up and said, "We're going to sign you." So that was the backstory on that. And the coach just I don't know what they did that week, but.
Like we said, you've been around a lot of coaches during your career. So what did you think of Coach Shula when you first kind of encountered this gentleman there?
Well, it's I was always warned by my brother. And I thought, hey, I've been in the league so many years, almost double you. But I said, I got it on tap. I know what I'm doing and everything. And and so it was what was it, preseason, Glenn?
No, it wasn't preseason. We were playing Kansas City. It was we win the game, we win our division. So it was an important game. And it's so I said, Lyle, I'm telling you, this guy's different. He can chew. You won't have any butt left in your pants when he's done with you. You won't be able to pull your pants up because there ain't no butt. And he said, Lyle's like, oh, little brother, I know. I've been around the league. I've gotten chewed out before. I said, I'm telling you, this guy's special. And we're playing Kansas City, and they get down near the goal line. And if they got near the goal line, a lot of times they would send in a linebacker for free safety because you don't need a guy playing deep. And so in comes Steve Shula running in, and he normally came in for Lyle. So Lyle goes running out. And I'm sitting there watching the Chiefs, looking at their personnel coming in. I'm not watching ours. And so Lyle goes running out, and Shula gets in the huddle, and he goes, Brzezinski. And Brzezinski goes running out. So 2 guys out, 1 guy in. We got 10 guys. So we're standing there. We're from my perspective, I'm sitting there. I'm looking. They come out. They got the 2 tight ends, wide receiver, and so I'm on the power side, and they motion the guy over to the other side, and I go in and out on coverage with my free safety. And I turned to go in and out with my free safety, and there wasn't no free safety there. And so, unbeknownst to me, Lyle had gone out. So he's standing on the sideline, and he's sitting there looking, going, Shula. Brzezinski, who came in for you? And he goes, Shula. And he goes, oh, no. And he's standing.
So let's hear it from Lyle.
Wait. You got to hear this part. He's standing next to Arnsparger, standing next to Shula, and the play starts going. And sure enough, they run. And I'm sitting there. As soon as I saw a goal, I said, I don't have a safety. Please don't run 119 arrow Q. There was one play I didn't want to run, 119 arrow Q, which was they stretched the 2 safeties. Well, we only got 1 safety me, so I covered my guy. They throw to Lyle's touchdown. And Lyle's over there, and he's sitting there, and he's next to Arnsy, and he's going, oh, no, please don't run 119 arrow Q. Please don't run. And they run 119 arrow Q. And, Shula hits the roof like he usually does and yells at Arnsparger, and I'll let Lyle take it from there.
Well, it was I was sitting there looking at Coach Shula, and I was going, oh, my gosh. I said, I got to own up to this. I got to own up to this. And he goes, whose blankety blank 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 man was that? And I went, it was mine. So I raised my hand. And at that point, everything was just me and him. He was just letting loose with everything he had, and I was thinking, I've never been talked to like this before. I said, Glenn told me about this, and I went over and just sat on the bench, and I was just fuming. I said, smoke was coming up out of my shoulder pads and everything, and Glenn just kind of, when he came off the field.
Okay, hold on. Segue now out of that. We go. They kick the extra point. I come off the field and I immediately go to where Lyle is because I know he ain't gonna have any butt. He ain't gonna have any hamstring left in his pants. And I go over, and Kozlowski's got a towel. And he's waving it, trying to cool Lyle off. Lyle, he's red in the face, and he's going, and I said, and he's going, do you know what he called me? Do you know what he said to me? And I said, I told you the guy was special.
Well, and then go a step further as to what they fumbled the ball, so we got the ball back real quick, and we came onto the field and go through that, Glenn.
Yeah, they got the ball. So our offense, I think somebody threw an interception, whatever, and we're on defense now, one play,
right?
And Lyle is still fuming, and they run. We're in safety slot now. Safety slots, the 3 deep zone coverage. Lyle's supposed to be 20 yards deep. They ran P10. Remember P10? That was where they crossed their guards blocked their center guard and crossed over and created a little hole, and their fullback would come right up the middle. And I'm sitting there at strong safety, and I'm watching them run P10, and I'm thinking, and I'm starting to move over, and all of a sudden I hear bam, and I hear the fullback just go down after 1 yard, just smacked. And I look at my brother. He was so PO'd. He said, "I'm gonna hit somebody," and then he picked off the next pass right in front of Shula and spiked it.
They were spiking right at his feet.
By the way, everybody got to see that one. It was very clear there was a little frustration on that spike. No question about it.
I had to speak Shula language, and I was not ready for it. So,
it's funny. Glenn, you did that when I got in. You go, "Hey, man, congratulations on making the team." It's funny. We remember certain things he said, but hey, man, a heads up about you did the same thing. Like, hey, he's going to get you at some point. He hadn't done it, but at some point, he's going to talk to you. Just a heads up, man. Don't take it personally. But he's going to say things to you you've never heard before. And I did the same thing. I go, "Oh, no, my dad was tough. And my dad wasn't a big I love you guy, but I know he cared about me." And you were, I could see you were like trying to, and I wasn't getting the point until you have that moment during the game where he just drills you.
I think we all had, the guy that came up to me was Larry Little, my first game. He says, "Hey, he's going to yell at you, and it's not going to be nice." He says, "And if you don't yell back at him, he's going to own you the rest of the time."
Well, he owned me then.
Hey, so Lyle, talk a little bit about the dynamic of coming in and playing with your brother and really, it's I don't think it's a stretch to say when you came in, it kind of really cemented our defense in a way that really kind of lifted us up in the hierarchy of that league. But just talk about that experience. You've been in the league, and you got Glenn in there, and to me it was I was just intrigued by it. By geez, man, playing with your brother in the NFL got to be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, well, it was one thing I'd always wanted and desired and really prayed about. It was I wanted to play with my brother Glenn, and so I got that chance through this and that, going this way and that way, and so when I got down there. All I knew is I said I need to listen to Glenn. Glenn knows everything because he's a very cerebral person, and I knew that I needed to just keep my mouth shut and just ask questions all the time about what I was going to do or what he was going to do. Was he going to do something different in before games? If there was anything special that we had put in that week, we'd go over that, and we have just little signals ourselves to each other as to what we were going to do or even as the play was, the quarterback was coming up to the line of scrimmage, if there was something special that was happening over there, Glenn would always turn to me, and we'd have something special back for them. So that was something I had. I only had that with Bruce Laird at the Baltimore Colts. We'd done the same thing there, so I was really interested in seeing if we could do that with Glenn. I could do that, which we did. And that's what helped us a whole lot as far as being able to install what we could do. And then I also, with me, the way I hit, that was something that I was able to utilize a lot more than when I was up with other teams because of what Glenn was able to do with me as far as being able to get me educated on a real good basis, on a quick basis.
So let me ask you this. When you were growing up, did you guys pull pranks on everybody every single day of your life? Whether it was throwing those stickers on the back of your pants,
powder in the helmet,
whether it was putting the dishwashing liquid on Brzezinski's shoulder pads.
What you guys destroyed great cakes and had people throwing up.
And not to really bring up Robert Sowell. That was
by the way, that's one of the favorites of all time. That's a classic.
We don't have
your opponent right there.
We don't have time, and that's X-rated. But that was one of the great stories of all time. We'll have to pull that one out at some point.
Do you mind if now that you said you wanted to wait? I think that's unbelievable because you guys did your homework to study this guy who was always late, putting his stuff on, getting into that meeting, and you guys kind of watched it for a couple of days, and our stuff was always a little wet as we put on the jock and the pants, and then when you guys go ahead and loaded it up.
What had happened? I'll use the real word. He had put a piece of tape. He had patted Lyle on the back, and it said, "I'm an a-hole," but it had the whole word.
Yeah, it was an a-hole.
Yeah, it was spelled out. And he hit Lyle on the back, and that tape stuck, and it was. And I saw it, so I went up to Lyle and I pulled the tape off and said, "Hey, Robert, so well put this on." Lyle said, "I'll get him back." And so we got his.
So I'm kind of near, and so here's with one thing that these guys did. There was always like this. Hey, you see, Robert, he's late. He's going to have to put his stuff on.
Yeah.
It was always calculated.
Well, yeah.
Brzezinski, hey, look, Brew didn't zip up his bag when we were going on the road. Let's put some,
Yeah.
But
doing your homework.
Well, that was the beauty is you squirted that.
I got a good scouting report.
You squirted that shampoo in the shoulder pad, and they get out there and they wouldn't notice. And then all of a sudden they start sweating, and then just this foam would come up out of their shoulder. But
brilliant.
Poor old Robert, Lyle put white heat in his jock and then put it back in his mesh bag, and he came in late like usual and throws that thing on, and he couldn't practice. He was in. I heard him coming in the shower. I heard him yelling, "Ooh!" And he's swabbing himself down there.
Then it wasn't funny.
Then he went into the training room and got Bob Lundy, and they gave him one of those gloves and put cream in it and then taped it on him. And he came out and walked out, and we're all sitting there stretching, and he goes, "Oh, man, I don't know about this thing Lundy put on me." We said, "What?" And he goes, "He put that glove with that cream on me." And we go, "Come on, Robert, we got to see it. We got to see it." "No, I'm not going to let you." "Come on, Robert." "No, I'm not going to let you." "Come on." All right. He pulls his pants down, his hand sticks out.
It's like you were shaking hands with him.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason you got cut because Shula was.
He missed practice, right? Did he not practice that day?
Oh, yeah, he didn't make practice.
Oh, no. I think he missed a game. I remember sitting in the meeting room because he was back with us because we'd sit in the back and Lyle was kind of doing the gambling little thing we used to do back then.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you hear Robert.
Yeah, he was crying.
Sniffling, crying.
Because Coach Shula's up there talking about what we're going to be doing that day, and he's back there, and everybody's now on to what happened. And you can see it. And he's trying to hold it because he didn't want to break up that meeting. And then he took off. My D. He went running out of the room. I was like, oh, no. I got to tell you, you guys did some classic stuff. I used to love. So we got.
But, that's the only way to break up the monotony of these games.
Totally agree.
You got to have somebody like that. And we were just happy to do it.
No, you guys
were happy to apply.
You guys were great. The other one is so the cakes. That family that used to bring the birthday cake.
Aqueous gel.
Gel right there.
Yeah.
That clear stuff.
Oh, that was that time you cut the circle out, squirted the aqueous gel. Lyle stuck it in there. And he goes, "Yeah, I got it in there. Let's see who gets that piece." And so we're sitting there watching. All of a sudden, Kaz starts walking to the latrine, and he's going. He got this. He thought he was going to get a big sweet piece of cake, and he got aqueous gel. He started throwing up in the stall. He goes, "That's messed up, man."
This was. So I remember one time they brought in a big sheet cake. And Sandusky loved all these desserts, right? So John's coming by and goes, "Oh," and he's late to get on practice. "Oh, look at that cake, all that cake." So Lyle runs in early, I believe it was Lyle, and like this, he went in and got he kind of cut a little piece of it, lifted it up, took all the little the frosting out, put all that aqueous gel, put it right back, and made it look so. And John comes in. He's coming off. He had that limp, and he was coming off the field.
He was thinking about that cake for at least 30 minutes.
Beeline for that. He had nothing on his mind other than I want a piece of that cake, and he went right to that corner, put it. How could you? How could you do that?
Oh,
how could you?
Just ruin the cake.
Oh.
Hey, he's just sitting back there. Lyle just behind everything. It's
yeah. He just be over this locker snickering.
Yeah.
Hey, so the other one that's become famous through the years is the Dan Marino pads, his original. And there's so many versions now. I don't even know which is accurate anymore. But I know you two are behind it.
Well, it was the three of us, you, me, and Lyle, because we were all sitting in our hotel room, and Marino had gotten his shoulder pads stolen when we were scrimmaging in Atlanta up in Sewanee.
That's right.
And we were we when they came back, I guess somebody took his equipment bag, and so we're reading in the paper this article about Marino getting his shoulder pads stolen, and they're ones I had. I don't care about anything else, but those are my shoulder pads, my favorite shoulder pads. And we're sitting there going, "Oh, that poor little fella."
Yeah.
We feel bad for him, and so I think because we were laying on the beds and you're sitting on our dresser right there, and you're kind of egging it on and everything. And I'm pretty sure I said, you know what we ought to do? We ought to call the office and ransom those shoulder pads. Say we got the shoulder pads and we'll ransom back. Lyle goes, great idea. So he grabs a tablet and we had to write out a script of what we were going to say. Well, we started to get on the phone to call them, and Joe goes, no way they're gonna recognize y'all's voice. Y'all got too much of a Texas accent. He goes, let me do it. He puts a towel over the phone and is like, the old thing when you're ransoming somebody's life back, but it was shoulder pads. And man, they all of a sudden, and I said, they got hold of Ann, Shula secretary, and she's like, I don't know if I can make this decision. You're not giving me enough time, and we're going back and forth. And finally, I said, man, this is getting a little. We gave them a phone number. They called the phone number. Charles Benson answers it. Goes, I don't know anything about no shoulder pads, and hangs up. And so all this stuff's going on. I said, we got to go over let me go over to the locker room and see what's going on. I walk over. And there's a beehive of activity. Shula, everybody, Bobby, Monica, everybody.
Danny came rolling in with his Corvette. It's like,
they're going around. They're buzzing around Stu Weinstein. And then all of a sudden they go, we got to call Marino. Well, I go over. I said, man, we need to shut this thing down. Here comes Marino skidding up in his Corvette. And he says, I don't know. I don't want whatever they want. I want my dadgum shoulder pads back. And so we finally just said they were in the back of a truck in the parking lot. And they went out and looked around. They weren't there. And that was the end of the stuff. But that wasn't the end of the story. We looked at each other and I said, guys, we cannot tell anybody. We'll get our rear ends cut. And so I don't think we told anybody for like 20 years.
No, it lasted a long time.
It went a long time. Hey, listen, I'm rooming with him, and he's bitching about, that's the only thing I care about, those pads. That's how I throw and my release. And, man, now? And I was like, oh, Lord. I got to keep this oh, man. By the way, I wasn't thinking about you two getting cut. I was thinking about the guy most likely to get cut would be me.
That was the best. That was one of the best of all time.
Hey, by the way, and the other one that's made its rounds. It's amazing through the years. We talk about first-time quarterbacks, rookie years, getting a chance to start. That's a big thing now, how quickly a rookie can play. And it always comes up, and Danny even says it because he remembers Lyle Blackwood for one thing coming up to him before his first start. We had lost some games. He'd come in off the bench in the second half, but he's finally going to start at home against the Buffalo Bills. And Lyle, I got the words here, but you got to run this through because only you could go up to a guy who's getting ready to play his first game, as nervous as all get up, and what you said to him.
The seasoned veteran.
Well, I just thought I'd throw a little lightness in there. I said it was also everybody was so tense. That's before I'd had my run in with Shula, so I thought I need to throw some lightness on this arena and of people, of men, and going out to battle for war. And anyway, I just went up to Marino, and I said, the shoulders of this season. I mean, this season is riding on your shoulders and how you play out there. You go out there and play everything. I said, so I just wanted you to know that. Nothing, big.
Hey, yeah. He actually buttered him up a little bit, if I recall. You said, hey, Danny, you got great talent. You're going to do great out there. You got a team behind you, but just remember the whole season's riding on your shoulders.
He says, I've heard his story. He goes, Lyle walks away, and I'm just staring at him, and I'm going, I can't believe he just said that to me. I could just see that look on his, instead of everybody patting him on the back, hey, let's go, man. It's a team game. Lyle goes, it's all on you if we're going to play well or not. Oh, gosh.
And he played well that game.
Yeah, we played well in a lot of games after that. Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about we're this out to pasture, and we're kind of talk about aging and living your life the best you can in your later years. And I know we've all had our injuries and stuff like this, and so I just want to get both your thoughts on how you're dealing with it. You're 67. Wow, what are you? 70 what?
73.
73. I'm 70. Joe's 67. So we're all in that age. How do you go about living your life now with all the aches and pains and but still find some joy in your life and still find ways to kind of fight that father time off, get that old man out of your head? What do you guys try to do to make that part of your life?
Go ahead, Glenn. You're younger than me. I don't see if any age has anything different.
Well, I think all of us have, look, I had 5 knee surgeries. I got my knee replaced, got shoulders. We all wake up in the morning and you can feel, I always say, I can feel Riggins right there, and I can feel Earl Campbell right there. And you've got all that stuff. And if you didn't realize that was going to be part of the game, you're just not very smart. Yeah. That's just going to be part of the game. But I think for me, I don't know about. I've definitely been more conscious of what I put in my gut. What I eat. I've done the NFL, to their credit, they've done some physical. And matter of fact, I'm getting a physical evaluation up in North Carolina in 2 weeks, and they go through and do you a 3-day exam of you. So I'm glad they're doing stuff like that. That helps a little bit, but some of it's just the pain of the game. And I know that we've all experienced and had teammates that have succumbed to injuries such as, especially this CTE stuff. And you can't ignore it. It's real. I do think, at least my experience has been, because I'm watching Lyle, both of us were very physical in the way we played the game. And when I can remember many times where, we didn't have that, hey, you get your bell rung and you sit out for 2 plays, you came back in. Yeah. There wasn't any of that, hey, you're out for 2 weeks stuff. And I think there's some genetic stuff with this, because I know Lyle, I've been around him quite a bit, and he around me, and we're functioning pretty well in our brains. And so I think, and I know guys that didn't play a whole lot, weren't real active, and they're gone, and they're gone at 50-something years old. So I just think part of that's at least my sense on that. For me, I think I just have to really be mindful of what I put in my body, and we'll see how it plays out.
You stay pretty active though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still play golf and still go hunting and fishing, and I just came out from my hunting lease in Texas and was climbing up in blinds and working on it. So I still stay pretty active, and I think that's part of it too. I have a Peloton bike, and I'm not to plug them, but I do have a Peloton bike, and I ride it religiously, and so I keep my aerobic stuff going and my body moving that way. And I think if you just sit and watch TV, that stuff's gonna just settle in, and that's gonna be problematic. So that's my thought, Lyle. I don't know about.
Well, I echo all of that, Glenn. And as far as I try to go and work out every day as much as I can. Not every day, but at least a good portion of the week. And I instead of going down and chowing down on a full platter and maybe some more, my wife and I, we share what we eat a lot of times, and we always pick. She picks healthy stuff, which I've gotten accustomed to, so it's been a lot better. But I'm very, and I know all of y'all, even Joe is a tight end. You took some hits yourself, and I hit you in practice some too. But the game has changed, and I don't like what the change has been. I came into the league and I was already a hitter, and so I enjoyed hitting people on the other side of the ball, and that was part of my uh, importance to the Dolphins was that I was a hitter, a hard hitter, and I tried to knock people out of the game. That's really in the game against Buffalo when I exchanged position when I came in the second half. It's my hitting that second half is what helped me get a starting position with my brother Glenn, and I really appreciate that. And I really what I like, you know, what I liked is that Arnsparger liked people that hit also, and so on our defense, everybody hit, even the cornerbacks hit. And nowadays, you just don't have that. It's a fading uh, piece of action or whatever. I don't know if they've been taught or if they're just because they're bringing wide receivers over to defensive backs and because they're faster and they can cover or something like that. Anyway, but I see a lesson of the game of really good tackling. And I don't mean that you have to hit like I did all the time and head in the gut and everything. But you need to wrap around. You need to wrap your arms around them and bring them down and stop this hitting with the block tackling. And so I see the game has changed as far as I'm concerned. I really cringe when I see that. I see people kind of going down and see the guy jump over him. It was about 3 years ago when the Rams were playing the Saints, and they threw a pass down the sideline. There was a few seconds left, and the wide receiver jumped over the New Orleans Saint guy and just walked into the stadium, and the time ran out. And if you just all you had to do was just bring him down, and the time would have run out, and the Saints would have gone to the Super Bowl, not the Rams. And so I always use that as an example of just what one decision, what one person could have done to alter the ball game. And that was it. So anyway, I'm disappointed in the game because of that.
Yeah. I think we all are in what you see out there, and you know, so what I see about the game in what you're talking about, as much as tackling stuff, but there's no discipline in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like we had run support system. You know, if it's you know, it's the cornerback's got to go up and contain, or the safety's got to go up and contain, or the outside linebacker. Now there's no and now it's just kind of a, you know, they're so dead set on getting sacks and stuff. Mm-hmm. Guys are spinning inside, and the quarterback just runs around and stuff like that. So going back to the little health side. So this is, you know, and this is just me. You talked about CTE a little bit, and I'm kind of here and there with CTE, and I understand there's a lot of people. My father never played football, and he passed away with Alzheimer's. So, you know, I'm kind of in that kind of a situation. But what I try to do is I try to exercise my brain as much as I can. I try to read as much as I can. I'm trying to learn. I'm 70 and I'm still trying to learn how to play chess. I watch Jeopardy at night and I try to answer the questions. I do Scrabble. I do all those. I try to do things that are keeping my mind engaged instead of just sitting in front of a TV and letting it put information into my head. I go try to seek information. And again, I don't know. It's just me. I said, if I can exercise my body, why can't I exercise my brain? And I think I've chosen to take that path. And so far, you know, I mean, there's time. Look, I think we all have these situations where all of a sudden you're trying to remember a name and you can't remember it. And all of a sudden you're in the back of your mind, you're going, oh no.
Yeah.
Is this a little indication that something's wrong?
Yeah. And I'm with you. I do the exact same thing. I've got little patterns I have every morning, and you know, whether it's a word game or whether it's and it also just like you said, I've gotten to see the value of reading. Yeah. And so, you know, just exercising your mind. I try and do the same things, and you know, it's kind of a crapshoot. We don't really know where it's going to land. And you're right, Kim. I think the preponderance when you have as many people pro rata with the CTE thing, I think there's some real stuff there, but there are people that have that every day that never did anything. And so this is part of life. We always want a magic cure for everything, but this is part of life. And look, we're all headed to a dirt nap. I mean, life's, it's not infinite, it's finite. And so on this earth. And so I just think for me, it's taking that time to make sure that what time I have left is quality.
Well, how many concussions did y'all have? Each one of y'all have?
Oh, I'm guessing on the turf. I'm guessing flipped on in the middle of the field or on the side, except for Cooch telling me to get up and get off the field when that the wind knocked out of me. But I'm guessing 3 or 4 that I would know of. But I was in so quickly, I smelling salt, and you're like, you're right back in at 3rd and 6, and the doc's telling the coach he can go back in, and you're hearing your name and you get back out. Well, the joke is that we talk about there were no concussions in the 70s and 80s.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody ever taught you just got your bell wrong.
Yeah, I probably had, I was in the line of scrimmage my whole life, and so I probably had to different degrees. I got to say, minimum 6, and maybe more. The worst I remember getting it was an open field, and it was a helmet to helmet. And I just went out for a little bit, and I stood up, and the one thing I'm proud of I never got carried off the field. I always made my way off the field, no matter what was wrong with me. I made my way off the field. So this one, so I'm getting, and I'm walking, so I know I'm kind of unstable. So I picked a yard line, and I said, just walk down that white line, follow that like I'm getting a drug test.
Yeah.
Walk down that white line. So I'm walking down the line. All of a sudden, I look at the line. And the line's red, and I go, "Oh, I know this is something a little different. This one, but So that's I think that's kind of where I was.
And I think there's those times where you get just knocked flat out. You're gone. You don't even you have lapses of memory. And you don't remember the whole first quarter because you were gone. And there's those kind of knockouts, and then there's the knockouts where it feels like you get the cymbals on each side of your head, and it goes. And you're concussed, but you're functional, and you can go over and you clear. And so they're all concussions, but I had 4 where I got knocked like out where I didn't know where I was.
Well, I mean, Lyle, I'm assuming you're a few ahead of us, maybe.
Well, I would say 15 to 20 to me. Literally, my first one was in the 7th grade in Del Rio, Texas, playing Brackettville, and I went off to the side. I was hitting this real large guy, and he hit me. I hit him. I was playing linebacker, and I was real small, and I hit him in the thigh, and he just knocked me completely out. And I got up because I always got up. I never got carried off. I always got up for some reason, and went to the sideline. And you didn't have any doctors, you just had coaches, and it was usually the science teacher or the math teacher or something that was your coach. And it was something that I got on the bus and I was crying. Of course, everybody was making fun of me because I was crying, but I was totally knocked out. For where you get on the sideline, you have that, your eyes are big, and you have that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're oscillating.
I'm like, and so that was the first one I ever had, and then I just, as far as counting them on and on and on, I wasn't aware that they were going to cause that much damage to me versus when we got into the pros. But so I didn't really think much of them. All I wanted to do was be back in there. I was going, I want to be back in there. I want to be back in there.
I think that's really when you start looking at this targeting and all these things, I think there's some merit in what they're doing, to be honest with you. Don't hit with the crown of the helmet, stuff like that. I get it. But I was at the Texas-Georgia game, if y'all watched. And there was a kid, the Texas receiver's coming across, and this kid's coming at him. You're going to have a collision. And the kid kind of ducked a little bit, but that's just instinctive. Right. But he hit mainly with the top of his helmet on the shoulder pad of the Texas player, and they called targeting on him. And I said, "You can't do that. This is not the game of football."
My problem with that is, you're as a defender, you've got to commit at some point.
Yeah.
And at some points, maybe a tenth of a second, maybe even less than that.
Yeah.
And you got to commit. But then when you commit, then this guy kind of tries to protect himself. He drops down about 6 inches.
Yeah.
Now you're hitting him helmet to helmet.
Yeah.
And you get penalized. And so, but yeah. So
if you're leading,
but that's what we were taught.
Yeah.
We were taught to hit with this,
which they're not now.
And my target point was for most of my coaches was hit him in the ear hole, aim for the ear hole, aim for the ear hole. So that's the other thing with the concussions coming up when we played. What they would do is they'd go, how many fingers do I have up? And our doctors always put up 3 fingers. So you knew, you just said 3.
3.
Okay, good.
You passed it again.
Well, we
left out that we played on that nasty artificial turf, man.
Yeah.
And it was the falls if you're in there and you couldn't control. So a lot of the hits, and we're seeing it with Tua and other guys, it's not the front part sometimes. It's in the head's hitting the back and getting slammed on the grass. And we played on that nasty cement with a little piece of whatever that was. It was green.
Well, fortunately, the Orange Bowl was a great
perfect.
field.
Yeah.
It was grass, and I love playing. And if you
Great
think
field.
about it, that was better on our joints too.
No doubt.
You come out of that game, and Wednesday the next week you're ready to go again. You come off a turf game, it'd be Friday before you're ready to go.
Well, these turf fields that they're playing are far
Much
and
better.
away
Yeah.
because they got all the rubber in there and
Yeah.
it's cushiony. And sometimes I walk on those fields and I go, I don't know if this is grass or if it's.
Yeah.
I got to put my hand down and see if it's.
But there's a
grass
little
or
bounce
it's
to
not.
it.
Bounce
There's
to it,
cushion.
yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guys, I know we're taking up a lot of time. I really appreciate you coming on, but I got to tell one story. And when you talk about, I think the first concussion I had, I remember we were playing the Orange Bowl, and it was the first time we were going to play. We were playing the Houston Oilers. It was the first year that Earl Campbell came in the league. And I remember much like Glenn coming up to you and talking about Coach Shula. Glenn comes to me and goes, "Hey," he says, we're going to play this guy Earl Campbell. He says, you played with him at Texas. I said, well, yeah, the guy's like 250 or 2. He goes, but he's fast, he's fat, and he's strong, and I go, God, come on, I'm like, no, I've played against plenty of running backs, right? And all of a sudden, and you know what, I would never when I went out to do pre, I would never look at the other team. I never looked across the field at them working out. I just concentrated on at that point, for some reason, I turned around and I said, let me look at this fucking guy. And I looked and I said, and his thigh size, each thigh was like 32 inches. And I'm going, well, how can he can't be that fast. You can't have those lumber two logs on your legs and run that fast. And so the first time I hit him, it was a 36 trap, 37 trap, whatever side. Tight end blocks down, offside guard pulls, fullbacks come to me, and I stick my head between all 3 of them, and then I hit Earl's thigh. And I thought my neck was going to jam down to right down the back of my head, and I went, holy crap, this is a whole different bargain right here, man.
I got a picture of me walking with Earl at that game.
Yeah.
It was a Monday night football game, and we're walking side by side, and my waist at that time, not now, but my waist at that time was 32 inches. One of his thighs was 34 inches. I said, the guy's thigh is bigger than my torso.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an incredible and a good man.
Wonderful, great guy. Great guy. Lyle, you got anything else you want to throw in here for us?
No, I'm just appreciate y'all thinking about me and tracking me down here in Texas.
Lyle, we can't talk pranks and have fun without talking about Lyle Blackwood. You probably know that by now. And by the way, while we're at it, I want to thank both of you guys, and especially Glenn, when they found out we had mandatory drug testing, and Glenn, I was able to put it underneath, knowing I probably wasn't going to pass the test, the first one, and I want to thank you after all these years.
I do what I can, Joe.
How many guys did you do that day? 20?
Yeah, there were 16 that day.
Well, you're not here, so we can't do. So we got to give. This is the first time we've given out an honorary Out to Pasture shirt for Glenn here, and so you can wear it with pride. Our guys, friends, our friends at Skechers give us these shirts, and we're very happy about that. So
you're going to be wearing it all the time.
I'll send one to you, but I got to tell you, as we leave here, guys, we played with a lot of guys, played with a lot of people over the course of all of our careers, and the moments I cherish most are the moments that we were on the field together in the huddle, and just depending on each other, and knowing that if I looked at you or if I looked at Lyle, he was thinking the same thing. We're all in the frame of mind. And look, we may pull a prank even in the middle of a game, every now and then you kind of to break the ice. But I wish a lot of people could have played with the group of players that we played at the time we played at the time of our lives. I think I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
It was great fun. We stuck together. You knew that the other guy took his job seriously. And as much, like you said, as much fun as we had, we also took the job seriously.
Yeah, it's good. All right, thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's hard getting you guys together.
Thanks, Lyle.
It was hard getting them together because Glenn's still working, and Lyle seems to be on vacation all the time. Always flying around everywhere.
I'm still working because he was my agent, and I never made enough money. I still got to work. I wasn't a big money cow like you guys. Lyle gets me that $28,000 contract.
Yeah, you thought you were rich too. That's the sad part.
Mine was $16,500 when I joined the Cincinnati.
All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Well, that was great. It was great having Lyle here. Great having you. Again, this is our first time. It's usually just me and Joe, and it really
we need Glenn. Glenn in the middle is good.
Get a little intelligence into this program. But
a lot more money for sure too. Not getting into your business.
No doubt. But just want to thank you for it and everything. And hey, look, if you like what we're doing, if you like Out to Pasture, go ahead. You can get us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart Podcast. And if you're enjoying us, subscribe, click, let us know that you want. And look, you can send us messages on outtopasture.com and let us know if we want to. If you want anything that you want to see from us, and I want to thank our sponsor from Scales that always help out with us, and obviously So we got to go back. I got to get in the cash register because Glenn costs a lot of money.
Those are really expensive. It's coming out of your money too.
Let me get back there and get him a paycheck. We'll see you guys next time on Out to Pasture.